Yeah, let me know as soon as he's coming, right? Fine, thank you. Good, okay, fine. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. Hello, my name is Roger Clemson. Welcome to This Is Your Life. The great author James Michener once said that no writer could possibly create a character as exciting or unusual as the true-to-life adventurer who is our guest of honor tonight. Now, he's coming to this station ostensibly to talk about some new discoveries that he's made in terms of navigation. We've got a few surprises that he certainly will not find tonight on. Ladies and gentlemen, we particularly require your assistance in this surprise tonight. Let me explain what's going to happen. In just a moment, our guest of honor will come through that door, and you will all be in complete darkness. But on cue, the lights will come on. I want you all to rise to your feet and applaud ecstatically, because by so doing, you will help me to give our guest of honor the greatest thrill of his life, okay? But first of all, before that, you must be very quiet so that he does not know that he's coming, okay? Now, very quietly, first of all, rise to your feet and applaud, and the very best of luck. And please put the lights out right now, okay? Right, let's go. Captain Brett Hilder, my name is Roger Clemson, sir, because it's my pleasure, sir, to present to you your biography and to say to you, Captain Brett Hilder, this is your life. Captain Brett Hilder, known sometimes as Hurricane Hilder and Captain Redbeard, from boy to man, you've exemplified the poet Longfellow's lines about the secret of the sea. Only those who brave its danger, master mariner, brilliant navigator, charter of unknown seas in your lifetime, you also became an artist. Brett, in a lifetime spent as captain of ships in the South Seas, you're in the Elizabethan tradition of great mariners. You capture your experiences in books, paintings and sculptures like these. And you become known as one of the world's most brilliant navigators, charting previously unknown hazards. In the great tradition of the Buccaneers, stories about you become legend. Well, tonight we see behind that legend. One of the people to whom James Michener dedicated his book, Return to Paradise. Well, he is secluded at the moment writing a new book, but he did take time off to send his affectionate greetings and to tell us about you.
People have often asked me whether I ever used Captain Hilder in one of my novels. Well, I've told you that I depended upon him in writing about Hawaii. As an actual character, I always remembered him when I was writing about sea captains in the South Pacific. But the most important thing, I think, is that I dedicated one of my books to him. I thought so much of him that I wanted to memorialize him in something that I...
Now, Brett, will you please listen to this voice, the first of many that you will hear tonight.
Brett, do you remember Tiger Lily of the Goldfields?
From Queensland, yes, it's Tiger Lily herself, now known as Mrs. Lillian Barclay Miller. Tiger Lil, of course, you are the only woman included in the Michener dedication of his book. Now, you've known Brett since his very early days at sea. What can you tell us about him?
That I was his favourite passenger, and also that he was our charming navigator. He knows all the reefs, all the channels. He knows everything in the West Pacific, the South Pacific, and New Guinea. And it's been my pleasure and my honour to sail with him. And he, every time he used to come in the harbour, we used to say, hey.
Lillian, will you please take a seat? Thank you.
Our most important passenger.
Your most important passenger? Won't you sit down again, please? Captain Brett Hilder, the romance of the sea is part of life when you were born in Sydney in 1911. Your parents are Phyllis and J.J. Hilder, the famous watercolour painter. And here's a picture that he painted of you and your older brother, Bim. Well, the blood of seafarers certainly runs in your veins, as you discover many years later when you write a book about your father's work and trace the Hilder family back to the Vikings.
Do you remember our great-grandmother telling us stories about Ben Hall?
Yes, it's your sculptor brother, Bim Hilder, and his wife, Roma. Now, Bim, where does Ben Hall fit into the Hilder story?
Oh, well, great-grandparents used to run country stores. One day, Ben Hall decided to rob the joint. He came, took all the money out of the till, grabbed a lot of clothes, rushed upstairs and grabbed the jewellery off the dressing table. And my great-grandmother wept on him and said, "I always heard you were a gentleman, and no gentleman would steal a lady's jewellery." So he gave it back, and this is one of the pieces.
That's actually one of the pieces that he gave back.
Yep.
Isn't that beautiful? Look at that. That's marvellous. Thank you both very much for being with us tonight. Thank you indeed. Brett, your father dies when you were 4. Life is financially difficult until your mother qualifies as a nurse. And you move from place to place, rarely spending more than a year in any one particular school. So permanent friendships aren't very easy to make. But at 12, you joined the Waverley Boy Scouts.
He was the patrol leader of the Kookaburra Patrol.
But he didn't write very well as a clerk.
Your 2 scoutmasters at the time. Well now, Scotty, can we hear about Brett Hilder Boy Scout, please?
Yes, Roger. Back in 1925, I first met Brett as a patrol leader of the Kookaburras in the Scout troop. Even at the age of 14, he was quite a dominating personality, and he used to keep his patrol in order by hacking them in the shins. Also, the lads on the quiet used to call him Commodore Bilgewater. But just before he left, Brett got me to teach him a little ballad called Die Lorelei, a folk song in German, so that he could impress the girls on the ship.
Did it impress them?
Yes, it impressed one girl anyway.
That's the Now, Barney, I can't quite imagine Brett as a clerk somehow.
Well, in all honesty, neither can I. As a matter of fact, my mind can go back a long time, 50 years as a matter of fact, and I have a little memory in my mind about which I always smile when I think of your achievements in the last half-century. It's a picture of you standing very sheepishly in front of your boss at a place that both of us were juniors. And your said boss was striding up and down, hands clasped behind his back, and saying, "You must concentrate, Hilder. Concentrate, my boy."
Scotty Malcolm and Barney Barnes, thank you for being with us. Brett, by the age of 14, you are the proud holder of the Award of Merit with 5 bars of the Royal Life-Saving Society. Your dream of going to sea is realised when you become a cadet on the Burns-Philp ship Morella. Soon, the Joseph Conrad 9 short years, you earn your Master's Certificate. Your first command for Burnsville is SS Maiwara at the age of 27, and that same year you received the rarely awarded, very difficult Extra Master's Certificate, the only Australian to achieve this between the years 1931 and 1956. With Rabaul as your home port, you are soon visiting scores of South Pacific ports. It's the beginning of a lifelong study of uncharted waters. And you welcome your brief stays at home with your first wife, Matilda, and your growing family. But when the Pacific War breaks out, Brett, ironically, the Navy makes no use of your exceptional navigational talents. You discover the RAAF needs navigators, manage a transfer, and soon become a chief instructor of navigation. But this is not enough for you either. You train as a pilot, become a wing commander, and captain a Catalina flying boat.
That last mine-laying operation was a beauty.
It's your former who was just retired as a captain with Qantas. Now, Marsh, of course, the Catalina is a water operation, isn't it?
The main thing that we did on the Catalinas was to drop mines, mine-laying operations, and we went to bases further north and operated from Labuan in Borneo down to Bangka Straits. We dropped the mines between Bangka Straits and Sumatra, just to the east of the capital,
Palembang.
Palembang.
That was our last operation.
Yes, our last operation.
Wartime one.
They were usually fairly routine things, but Brett, having seen some ships on the radar on previous trips, decided to have a look at the shipping, do a reconnaissance. And that would create a certain amount of excitement. Ships to get out of the fire.
That's right, so they wouldn't shoot at all.
Well, it must have worked, obviously. And after the war, of course, it was back to sea once again for Captain Brett Hilder with new worlds to conquer. And what happens, we'll tell you about it in just a moment. Captain Brett Hilder, after the war you sailed the South Pacific as captain of many a ship, and many people are inspired by you. One of them, Captain Sam Benson, ex-MP for Port Melbourne, sends this message to you on film.
It's good to be with you in spirit, Brett. I'm sorry I'm not with you in person. In 1938, when you drew several charts in the New Guinea waters, the charts that were used in World War II are still in use and used by many mariners. And I'm sure that Cook, Torres and Flinders and people like that, if they could be with you now, they would say, well done, Brett Hilder.
Brett, in 1960, you write a biography about your adventures and dedicate it to my shipmates whose long-suffering loyalty is my most treasured reward.
Brett was the classic, master before God.
You haven't seen him for 15 years, Captain Frank Sadler. Now, Frank, you've sailed with Brett as master before God.
When a ship sails, everyone on board and the ship are under one hand, and that is the hand of the master. That is the origin of the term. And Brett, if we were fortunate enough to sail under you, we knew that your skill would get us there, and sometimes it might have to be your ingenuity. You made us work hard and you got the devotion out of us.
Frank Sadler, thank you very much.
See you later, Brett.
Brett, poets and writers have always been fascinated by the sea, but why is it particular appeal to you?
Well, not only ships, the sea itself has always appealed to me. From a little boy before I could swim. Going down to Bondi Beach and not being allowed to go into the deep. And the waves, the sea, I think I loved before there was much connection with ships.
Well, Brett, of course, during the years of sailing the Pacific, you carry on your father's artistic heritage. You make sketches and watercolours. You design prize-winning postage stamps for the Solomons, greeting cards for New Guinea, and become well known through the magazine Pacific Island Monthly for an extensive series of sketches and profiles of island identities. And these range from the King of Tonga to plantation owners and missionaries.
But you didn't tell me, Brett, that the sketch was for publication.
An old friend from Papua New Guinea, planter and crocodile hunter, Tom Cole.
I didn't know we had crocodiles down here.
Sometimes.
Sometimes we have swamps at Castle Craig.
Tom, it sounds to me that on this particular occasion you suddenly had fame thrust upon you. Is that right?
Yes, that's quite right. Yes.
Tell us more.
Brett's ship was in Madang, and I gravitated round to his cabin, and over a few glasses of water, well fortified, mark you, he sketched me. And that was, but I didn't know until later that it was for publication. When I did find out, I rushed out to buy every copy I could lay my hands on. But, actually, there wasn't such a run on them as I expected. But I must say, Brett, that when I first saw the picture, I was a little disappointed.
Oh, in the publication, yes.
But looking at it 8 years later, I find it quite flattering.
Oh, yes, yes. It'll be better as years go on.
Yes.
Well, at long last, you've had the chance to turn the tables and surprise him. And thank you, Tom Cole, very much for being with us. Constant battle with the elements, we know that. You battle your way through so many hurricanes that you earned the name Hurricane Hilder, and this film was shot by you in the middle of one of the worst of them. But fortunately, Brett, not all your trips are quite like that. There are many pleasant experiences on board and you make many friends. Here's one that means a lot to you, your wife, Janie. Janie, of course, you first actually met on board ship, didn't you?
Yes, we met aboard the Malaita in 1934. Brett was a beardless teenager travelling with my father. And then 20 years later, we met again on the Malaita when Brett was the master. And Dad and I were again travelling through the Solomons, the New Hebrides and through New Guinea. And I sat at the captain's right hand and we became friendly.
Janie, would you now like to once again sit at the captain's right hand? Thank you. Brett, you've always had a driving curiosity to explore and chart the unknown. You discovered a new passage through the Great Barrier Reef close to Captain Cook's. It appears on charts as the Hilda Reef. The Admiralty name a group of islands near Bougainville after you. And one of your spectacular finds are limestone caves running under a mountain at Port Purvis in the Solomons.
He called them the Caves of King Solomon.
Dr. Bruce Calloway, physician, who was your ship's purser for 7 years. Now, of course, Bruce, you were with Brett when he discovered those caves. Will you tell us about them?
We were exploring these, we found the caves, in fact, explored them up this high mountain and swam through the stalactites. A large curtain of stalactites, and as we got through we discovered more and more of these marvellous caves. They were quite spectacular. On subsequent expeditions we brought out living specimens and took photographs, and I think at least one of the specimens ended up in the British Museum.
Yes.
Well, thank you, Bruce Calloway, very much. We'll return with more stories about our master mariner in just a moment. Captain Brett Hilder, your contributions as a navigator are recognised with an MBE, and you become a member of many distinguished societies. But you love to confound the experts with new truths about established theories. At 65, you do it again. You've just received a Master of Arts degree for your thesis presenting evidence that the Spanish explorer Torres must have sighted Eastern Australia 150 years before Captain Cook.
It's a fine thesis, artistically and in its historical content.
Dr. Bill Coppell, lecturer in education at Macquarie University, who is here to tell us about your thesis. Doctor, will you tell us what makes the thesis so different?
As I understand the thesis, Brett was inspired by the writings of Father Celsus Kelly, and this led him to look into the voyages of Torres in 1606 and go back and read in the old Spanish, to look at the old instruments. And in the thesis, he uses his own watercolours, diagrams and charts to create a thesis which has the character of the man in it. And I've seen many theses about the Pacific, and very few have the character of the man. Other people have read it, and I have, and we've all enjoyed it. It's a thesis worth reading.
Dr. Coppell, thank you very much for telling us. Mr. Mariner always limits the amount of time a man can spend with his family, obviously. It's over 10 years now since you've seen all your 4 children together. Well, this is your life as assembled, the 4 of them here right now. Beatrice, Julius and Christine, and from Papua New Guinea, we've flown in your youngest daughter, Tanya.
Very happy to see you. Isn't it wonderful to all be together again?
Yes. I wonder now whether you will tell me, and all of us in fact, about Brett Hilder the father. And first of all, I think Beatrice.
Oh, Father, you don't know how much we used to look forward to you coming home after a trip. You used to bring so much colour and excitement and so many interesting people home.
Yes, I used to love coming down to the ship to see all the tropical fish that you'd brought down for the zoo, remember?
Yes.
Yes, we used to go to the zoo and go in for free and have a look around. It used to be so exciting.
Yes, we used to drive like the devil and pass everybody on the road.
The other thing I remember is that we were summoned by bells from our play. The ship's bell was hung from the veranda, and I received 1 bell as I was the eldest, and Beatrice received 2 because she's next in line. Christine 3, and Tanya, I'm sorry, had 4. And of course, if there was a mad ringing in the bell, then we all had to run in a panic.
That's right.
All hands. All obeyed your command, did they? Well, Brett Hilder, author, painter, sea captain, air pilot, navigation expert at sea and on the air. Where other captains sailed, you charted. Where others merely looked, you painted and wrote. How better can one contribute to life than leaving marks along the way for others to follow? Captain Brett Hilder MBE MA. This is your life.
Designed and built by clubs. Guests on this program are brought together by TAA. And choose to stay at the Sydney Ramada Inn.